You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is August the 12th, 2019. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Hi, Carl.
How is it going?
It's August 12th. There's not a lot. It's pretty dry right now.
Shockingly, we've got a hockey show for you today, though.
We have a hockey show in the middle of August.
Just the dead heat.
No news.
There's one news item we're going to get to today. We're going to get to, obviously, some very good hockey history.
Yeah, good one. One I'm excited about today.
Yeah. And I also want your thoughts on some things to get started here. You are a fan of the Detroit Red Wings.
I am.
That are well known for their history of the celebration of throwing the octopus on the ice.
Correct.
How do you feel about that? You like it? You don't like it?
Yeah, I think it's exciting when it's your team that gets to do it. It's fun. You cheer it on.
So are you okay with things being thrown onto the playing surface? Jerseys, octopi, I guess catfish in Nashville.
I think there's a line. It depends. Like, it's a little overboard when people are throwing like beer cans and popcorn bags on the ice out of anger, but there's a difference between one person throwing an octopus or a catfish on the ice in celebration or encouragement of their team.
Yeah, I do agree that there's a limit to what should be allowed with this.
It shouldn't delay the game any further. So, like,
which the octopus does. You got to get out a shovel. They got to scrape the ice. They got to clean it up, because those are not. It's not like they're throwing out like something that's not slimy.
Okay, but it takes like a minute. They can do it during a commercial break.
Okay, and
to wave it as he's running off the ice.
Yeah, exactly. And no one typically gets hurt.
And nobody gets hurt. It's not like that rat thing in Florida where they had to like stop the game for 20 minutes so they can shovel all those rubber rats off the ice.
Yeah. And I, that's my biggest issue is like, I wouldn't want anyone to get hurt. You see it all the time where like refs are getting pelted with beer cans at football games and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. No, that's not cool.
Now, have you ever done the octopus throwing or like been at a game has had it happen?
No, I would never do it myself.
No,
it's because I don't want to get caught bringing it in. Now, there are ways around getting caught bringing it in, and one of the ways is to lift up your shirt, tape the octopus to your stomach, and wear it under your shirt into the arena. That's how people do it. They saran wrap it to their stomachs.
And you're not doing that, is what you're telling me.
No, I will not tape an octopus to my belly.
Okay. Because I've heard that. I know people have snuck things in their pants in all sorts of varieties. Yeah. I would strongly suggest not doing the octopus. And this is why. Because we talk about people getting hurt. And I assume that these octopus, and we'll get into that in a second,
okay,
are no longer with us, right? They're deceased octopuses.
If they weren't when you bought it, they were when you smothered it against your belly.
I guess when you saran wrap it to your chest, it's going to die.
Yeah.
There was a lady on the weekend, and one can only assume that beverages were involved with this, but she was at a local fishing derby, which is a good sign of a good time anyways, right?
Go on.
And they caught an octopus, and they're planning to eat it, planning to cook it up, and before she did, she thought, what would be hilarious? Taking a picture of this octopus on my face.
It was alive still?
It was still alive.
Oh,
and so this thing, tentacles, it's got its 8 tentacles wrapped around her face. And it is small. Granted, this thing is smaller than her head.
Yeah, that's a tentacle for each Stanley Cup, by the way.
Okay. Is that how it started?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it actually started, you had to win 8 games to win this Stanley Cup back then.
Oh, so now should you not strap 2 octopus to your chest when you go in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the history takes precedent than the current accuracy.
Okay, let's hope that they don't bump it down to 3 rounds, because then you're throwing an octopus and a half up there.
Okay, look,
Anyways.
We're getting off track here. What happened to this lady's face?
So, first off, did you know what is what is underneath all those tentacles?
I mean, I've seen some videos, but it's nothing I could talk about here.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I know something about octopuses and ink, right?
So there's that, but more important than that, did you know they have a beak?
No.
This lady got bit by an octopus beak, which when you look up pictures of it, looks very much like the beak on a parrot.
That big?
It is big, yeah. I mean, comparative to the size of the octopus, but like there's a guy holding it and this beak is about the size of his fingers. So like that is a big octopus.
So she puts this octopus on her face.
So she puts this octopus on her face. It clamps on. It bites her.
Like beak comes out?
Beak shoots out, grabs her face, and is not letting go.
Oh my God. And I'm assuming the tentacles are like grabbed onto the back of her head.
Yeah. And this article, which I went to, there are many places that report on this. I went to the best place for an accurate representation. I went to sciencealert.com.
Okay.
Where I learned, according to sciencealert.com, which I can only assume is a scientifically accurate website.
Sounds legit.
That it is octopuses, not octopi.
False.
Well, they have Grammarly has a whole thing. They link to Grammarly that tells you that it's apparently octopuses.
I don't know.
Okay, well.
I'm going to choose to not believe you.
Okay, well, I am now going to only refer to them as octopuses.
Okay.
So, these octopuses, this one octopus actually shoots its beak out, bites her, grabs on. This lady, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, I should laugh. She did this on purpose. She thought it was going to be, apparently there was a photo contest. Like, whoever takes the best picture with a fish at the fish derby wins. She better.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course she puts the octopus on her face. The question is, what did her face look like after?
That is the question. So her face bled for 30 minutes after. It took quite a while to get this thing under control. They finally got it off. Now here's the other part of it though. You may not know this. You just learned that octopuses are not called octopi, so I know that your octopus's knowledge is lacking.
Stop saying it. Stop it.
Did you know that all octopuses have venom?
I didn't, but I can't say I'm surprised.
This lady does now. So
how bad is the venom?
It's not enough to kill you, right? Most people would not die to it, and she didn't. But it's definitely enough to leave you with like some facial wounds. And so not only this, so this lady, and this is how I know that beverages were involved. This lady gets bitten. She gets venomed. A few days later, she decides to go to the hospital. She finally realizes at this point, when her face was swollen from the venom and she couldn't swallow properly, she was like, you know what? Maybe this octopus thing is getting a little bit out of control.
Maybe this isn't just a 2-day hangover.
Yeah, maybe this bender I was on needs to stop and I should go to the hospital and sort this out.
Wow. That is quite the story, Carl.
So make sure when you throw an octopus on the ice at a Red Wings game, make sure that it's dead when you do it. Because can you imagine if that had happened to Dylan Larkin?
No, but also make sure it's dead when you stick it to your stomach like that. Because otherwise you're getting a beak in the belly.
Yeah, that thing's going to rip your belly button open.
That's some real alien stuff right there.
Yeah. You're getting beaked, you're getting venomed. This lady gives us a very kind warning at the end, and she says, I'm just here to tell people that just because something looks delicate and precious, or it can't hurt you, know what you're touching before you actually do something like I did.
You know how I would describe an octopus if someone asked me to? I wouldn't say it's delicate and precious.
Yeah.
Beak or no beak, they are not delicate or precious creatures.
No. Granted, one thing I did learn through this article and through my research, octopus wrestling used to be a thing that people would do. Like back when it was legal to pit animal v animal, apparently they would just make octopuses fight each other.
like they'd set up a fish tank and
I guess so, yeah. No, it was person versus octopus, actually. And it says a diver would grapple an octopus and try to drag it to the surface. And it would be teams of them, and whoever caught the biggest octopus won.
How big were these octopi that they had to fight them to the surface?
Well, first off, it's octopuses. As this Wikipedia article on octopus wrestling tells you, a total... In April 1963, 111 divers took part in the World Octopus Wrestling Championships. A total of, and I quote, 25 giant Pacific octopuses were captured that day, ranging in weight from 4 to 57 pounds.
Wow.
Can you imagine this? Can you imagine the beak on a 57-pound octopus?
I can't even imagine the beak on a little octopus that grabbed her face.
Yeah.
Like I can't picture what that looks like right now. It sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Well,
horrifying.
So here's our takeaways. 1, do not put an octopus on your face. It does have a beak. It will bite you. It is venomous, which will apparently, maybe people's reactions differ, but it will make your face swell up and your throat stop working. That'll close over too. A couple of days later, you have time. You're not going to die right away. Maybe like in a week you would have. So there's that, and the plural of multiple octopuses. That's what we've learned today.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Welcome officially to the 2019 off season.
Before we get to the rest of this jam-packed hockey podcast, let's remind everyone about ATB, the official sponsor of the Alberta Podcast Network, where if you were to want to start an octopus farm, you'd go to them with a business plan and you'd say, ATB, I want to start an octopus farm or an octopus wrestling championship. Can you help me? And they would try to help you. They might not give you money for that, though. I'm not going to speak on your behalf, but if you go to atb.com/listens, you can tell them what your needs are, and they'll do the best way to be able to fit your needs and get you what you need. And so head on over there. If you are looking to start a small business, if you're looking for personal financing, if you are in sports, right? ATB is a big supporter of local sports, grassroots, professional. Head on over there. Check them out. ATB Financial is a great place for your banking. Nick.
So actually, just on the octopus note, I have a fun side story. Not a lot of people know this, but after the 1998 season, Chris Osgood signed his contract extension with ink that was extracted from the octopus that was thrown on the ice during Game 4 of their Stanley Cup victory.
Did someone tell him that's venomous?
I don't know. I just made it up right now. I thought it would be a cool, fun.
I 100% assume that was a thing. I assume that's the only ink in Detroit Red Wing front offices.
It's the most expensive import they have in that office.
Yeah, it's honestly why it took them so long to bring Steve Yzerman over from Tampa. They could not afford him. They were like, look, Steve, we have to bring in a whole new set of octopus pens for you. And he had to throw them all out. All of his pens from Tampa, he left them there.
Garbage.
Yeah, they're useless now. Only the best. Spare no expense.
Not for the Detroit Red Wings.
No. It's all octopus. Octopus or nothing.
That's right.
We I think it was right in the heat of free agency. Roberto Luongo, former NHL goaltender. Now jersey number retiree with the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, after literally hanging his pads up.
He hung his pads from a telephone wire, and which seems dangerous.
Well, I mean, they're mostly rubber, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, did he just throw them up there? How many tries did it take? They're not light.
He actually climbed those phone poles, you know, those little hooks they have on the outside.
Yeah.
And he went without a harness, which is not safe.
No, that's not code.
Yeah. But when has Luongo ever been code?
That's true. I mean, he was a captain of an NHL team. That's not
right.
Do you do?
Right. But he paved the way for a generation of goaltenders.
It's true. And now he can pave their way to not wearing number 1 for the Florida Panthers. They will be retiring his jersey this upcoming season. The very first jersey retired by the Florida Panthers.
Really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Retire any. What do you think? Do you think that's a fitting choice for them to retire former Roberto Luongo? I guess he's still Roberto Luongo, but former goaltender.
He's changed his name now.
Yeah. He's actually Robert Luongo. After all these years.
He dropped the O. Yeah, I think it's fitting. I mean, he started his career in Florida. He ended his career in Florida. And I think it's more a sign of respect from the team on his whole career. Because I think his career peak was not with Florida.
Yeah, correct.
So I think it's a nice thing for them to do to honor his whole career that, you know, the jersey retirement probably doesn't reflect his time with the Panthers, but more so his entire career.
Definitely. Let's not forget the fact that he actually started his career at the New York Islanders.
But did he play for the Islanders?
He played 24 games as a New York Islander, yeah.
Okay. Well, that counts then. Maybe New York should retire as number 2.
I mean, I'm sure the Islanders have many less numbers than 0. So they've got lots of space in the old Raptors. They have a whole new arena to fill with numbers.
They sure do. Yeah. But the Panthers, their first jersey retirement.
Yeah.
Number 1.
And so you look at it, and one thing that I was doing, he played 11 seasons, parts of 11 seasons in Florida. A ton, right? Yeah. Came to them when he was 21, retired with them when he was 39, spanning 18 years, fantastic career. And I know, like, in doing that, in 11 seasons, his win total, which is a terrible way to look at it, but remember, these are Florida Panther wins, which count for at least 1.25.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? His win total, he had 230 wins in 11 seasons with the Panthers. And that would place him 61st all-time in wins. That's pretty good. 61st most
all-time
as a goalie, just if you count his Panther wins. Completely ignore all 7 wins he got as a New York Islander and the 252 he got as a Canuck.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
His legacy there,
for the teams the Panthers iced.
Yeah.
Can't ask for better than that.
So good on him. And he's a guy that I always just wanted him to have a better shake than he did.
He deserved a little better, a little more than what he got on the ice.
In that regard, I mean, those Canucks teams, when they went to the finals, were good. I just think he deserved to be treated better by management, etc. I'm glad that he found a place in Florida that appreciated him. He found a home that he enjoyed. Could be a part of that organization. And they're, even aside from his on-ice performance, to show this appreciation of him, I like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a solid human, right? And he took everything that happened to him in his career in stride, right down to this contract mess, or what turned into a contract mess in the later years of his career. He faced it all with a smile on his face. He joked about it. And through it all, he continued to play and play pretty well, too. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Good on him. He deserves it.
I always remember back that press conference or interview. I don't remember which it was, but what I remember was him saying that he wished he'd never signed that contract at all.
Yeah.
And which, you don't get that kind of honesty from that many athletes or anyone really.
No, you don't. And really from someone who's not really his problem, right? Like, the contract has to be honored.
Yeah. So I guess my second favorite memory was when he missed the start of overtime because he was still in the bathroom. That's my second favorite Roberto Luongo moment.
It's a pretty good moment.
It's a pretty good one, yeah. So that's where we're at. We've talked octopuses. We've talked Roberto Luongo. There are still, however, Nick, a number of players that are not on any teams. Roberto Luongo is not on an NHL team anymore.
Correct.
And there are still
being paid by one, though.
He's got quite the cap hit for some of them.
Yeah, he does.
So there's still some teams, and more specifically players, that have yet to sign contracts. So what I want to do is take a bit of a look at who some of those players are and where we think they'll end up. And I guess maybe it's like, when do we expect them to? Because there's some big-ish names out there still. And I guess do you want to start with, like, because there's been like one notable restricted free agent who signed? 2. Sebastian Aho signed an offer sheet.
Yeah.
And Jacob Trouba got traded to the Rangers.
Correct. Are they the only 2?
I want to say they're the only 2.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Restricted free agents that have signed. So there's that gaggle of them, and then there's the unrestricted free agents, featuring people such as Jake Gardiner.
Yes. Weird one for him to still be out there.
He's one that I would have thought a lot of teams would have been going after. I would have been very okay if he had ended up on the Avalanche, especially now that they've traded Tyson Barrie to the Leafs.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams would be happy with him. I kind of wonder if he's still hoping he can fit in on the Toronto roster.
Just waiting to see if somehow Mitch gets offer sheeted to end up back there. Because if he can, right?
Sorry?
An offer sheet for Marner where he leaves is the only way he can fit on that team.
I think so. And the Leafs have expressed interest that they'd like to bring him back, but I don't see how it's going to fit once Marner is signed.
No, I don't think that it can, unless someone else also leaves. But I think they've traded all the dead weight they can at this point. I don't think they can trade for more injured players to put on.
Oh, I don't think so.
To get cap space out of somehow. I don't think that can happen.
Either that, or they may have finally just run out of people who are willing to do favors for the Maple Leafs.
Oh, they started listening to this podcast and said, you know what? Nick's right.
Yeah. Just need to stop it. Anyways. So yeah, I don't know where Gardiner is going to end up, but I'm sure there's like 2/3 of the teams out there would want to sign him.
You know who should be making, and I'll look at their cap situation, but the Flames lost Yusuf Alamaki, hurt his ACL today, and he's out long time.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like at least 6 months for him. And they said that they're going to be exploring through free agency and trades options of bringing in another defenseman. Jake Gardiner is another defenseman. They only have just under $8 million, and they do need to still sign Matthew Tkachuk to a contract. Not an easy one for them to be able to swing, but that's an option.
Yeah, the Flames are an option. The Jets could be an option because they've lost 2 of their big name defensemen. The Avalanche, like you pointed out, could be a good option.
I don't think the Avalanche would at this point, but they have the room. Especially like for whatever reason, this Jake Gardiner contract just screams to me of who's that former Leafs defenseman that every stats guy loved and the rest of the NHL hated?
Are you like quizzing me? Do you know the name?
No, I don't. It's skipping my mind.
Was he like a bottom guy?
No, he was like middle of the pack. He played in Chicago. I forget. Anyways,
I don't know who you're talking.
Someone listening right now is like yelling at their phone. You're like, Carl, Nick, this is who it is. There's a P in his name somewhere.
Oh boy, that does not help me.
Nick, I'm going to go through the entire alphabet here. Anyways, I'll figure it out.
Okay. I think that Jake Gardiner is better than Leafs fans give him credit for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He is. And the thing is, when this guy makes mistakes, they are very, very visible mistakes. And it can get very frustrating to watch. Mm-hmm. But he does so much smaller good things that you don't even recognize on the ice. I think Carl's figured out who the player is.
Okay. Not a P in his name, though. That was the biggest red herring ever.
Okay, who is it?
Cody Franson.
Oh yeah, I remember Cody Franson.
Yeah, this feels like something where like he's gonna sign like a 1-year deal, and everyone's gonna be like, "Really? That's all it took to get Jake Gardiner?"
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. He's what? Is he late 20s right now? 28, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was going big, he's long term and cap hit, it'd be done.
Yeah, there are teams out there that can fit him and would. The Jets are a good call. I like that. They should do that. I mean, they have to sign Laine first. They've got a couple RFAs that they need to sign, right? They need to sign Patrick Laine and Kyle Connor. Both need contracts.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty like both them and Laine have been pretty open on the fact that they're going to look at a bridge deal for him.
Yes.
So if you're only bringing Gardiner in on a year or 3 years max, then you can make that work easily.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So there you go. Jake Gardiner to Winnipeg. It's happening. A couple more we got on the old docket.
All right.
I guess if we sort this and look at like point producers from last season.
Yeah.
2 of them are future San Jose Sharks. Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, both left unsigned.
Yeah.
And from all reports, will only play if they're playing in San Jose.
Yes. And this isn't out of the ordinary for these guys to wait it out.
No, and we'll just wait. I know Joe said essentially like, give me what's left last year.
Yeah.
I assume that they'll like split what's left. If there's even room for both of them. I'm not sure it's smart for the Sharks just keep like doing favors for old players. Sure.
Yeah, but it's pretty low risk if it's on a 1-year deal.
True. Yep.
Right? Like, I don't know. Who cares? They still produce. They've got almost $5 million in cap space. I don't think either of those guys are going to demand salaries over $2 million.
If they'll play for that little, if that's really all they want is just to play for the love of the game, because who else do the Sharks have to sign? They're done, right?
They're done, and they got a hell of a deal on Kevin LeBanc.
Yeah, he made all those other RFAs look like jerks.
Yeah, he really did.
I love. He talked about it this week. Did you see that? He was like, "Yeah, no. I just wanted to make sure that like took care of the team." Like who's doing that? Is like a 23-year-old restricted free agent just being like, "Yeah, I'll play for $1 million this year."
That is Doug Wilson tying him to a chair and holding an octopus over his face. Saying you will sign this $1 million contract.
That beak is just shooting out at him. Sign it. Sign it in ink.
And his new name is Kevin LeBeak.
All right. What else do we got?
Do you have more UFAs? Or are we moving?
There's a few more UFAs of note.
Okay, say the name and I'll say the first team that comes to my head.
Okay. I'm not sure how many more of these are worthwhile of signing. Jason Pominville.
Minnesota. Wait, is that where he played before?
Yeah.
Okay. Montreal.
Derek Brassard.
Los Angeles.
Ben Hutton.
Florida.
I like this game. Riley Sheehan.
Vancouver.
Dan Girardi.
Detroit.
Yes.
He's got that Stevie connection.
I thought you were gonna just say like retirement. I love. Answer couldn't have been more magical. Let me see who else do we got on this list. Justin Williams.
Retirement. Yeah, I think so.
Mark Mathot.
New York Islanders.
Michael Stone.
Dallas Stars.
Thomas Vanek.
I honestly have you stumped me.
It's not Detroit again?
That's all I could think of. Literally all I'm thinking in my head is don't do it, Stevie. Don't do it, Stevie.
Don't you dare do it.
He'll go somewhere like the New York Rangers on a year deal worth nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Cam Ward.
Oh, God. I don't know. Calgary.
Okay. Well, this has been a fun game. I think for the sake of Nick, we should stop this game.
I wasn't as quick on my feet as I was hoping to be.
You were just as quick as I was hoping you to be, so don't worry. I was very pleased with the results of this game.
Well, we'll see if any of them come true.
Well, there we go. When this happens, this game of I guess one. No, we talked about him. I was going to quickly rapid fire you some of the guys we talked about, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
What about RFAs though? Who's going to drop the skate first?
Ooh, I like that. Is that the term that we use for that?
I just made it up right now, so
yeah. I believe. So here's the giant list of RFAs that still have yet to sign.
Okay.
Mitch Marner, Braden Point, Mikko Rantanen, Matthew Tkachuk, Kyle Connor, Brock Besser, Patrick Laine, Travis Konecny, Zach Werenski, Charlie McAvoy, Ivan Provorov, and there's more. But like those are the bigger names that have yet to sign. It's huge.
Lots of big names, yeah.
There's 34 unsigned or restricted free agents.
It's wild. It's a lot of work to do in the summer, in the off season. Like these GMs are making their teams work pretty hard.
Yeah.
In their downtime.
It's taken a ton of effort to get this sorted. I just cannot think of. I mean, there is the one shoe that's everyone's waiting to drop, right? But like, I think once one of them signs, it'll help all of them. So I don't think that it's like, I know a lot of people are saying like it's Mitch Marner and he's holding it all up. Well, I would say 3 of them. Like I would put, tell me if I'm crazy, because I would put Marner, Point, and Rantanen in like a trifecta at the top in any particular order. I think they're a group that like will get, or should, I would not be surprised if they got similar money. And then like Tkachuk is after that. I think he's a bit of a notch down. You talked Laine's already talking bridge deal. So like he's a different category. He's not waiting on any of this to happen.
Yeah, agreed. I think you're a little high on Rantanen.
Damn it.
By throwing him up there.
Okay. I'm very okay if we have to pay Mikko Rantanen less money.
But I do think he's a notch ahead of someone like Tkachuk, but I think he's a notch below someone like Point or Marner.
So you have Marner and Point 1, 2, Rantanen 3, Tkachuk 4.
I think Braden Point's going to get more money than Mitch Marner.
And that's not coming from Tampa then.
Yeah, it's coming from Tampa. They have room for him, don't they?
I guess so.
And I think he's going to be the first of the group to sign. Tampa only has $9.3 million right now.
But we all know that they don't pay taxes in Tampa, so who cares? It's a 9.3 in Tampa is 13 in Toronto. Right.
As you've heard in previous episodes of this taxes podcast.
Yeah.
Do they have anyone going on LTIR? No, they don't, do they?
Because they traded away their long-term guy in Ryan Callahan.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that I see that, I think they're probably going to come in around the same amount, $9 million.
Which is, you may not know this, is a lot less than is being reported for numbers. Did you see the report coming out this week that the Islanders were reported to be offering him a $13 million a year offer sheet? Yes,
I heard that.
People really need to stop reporting things that are just entirely untrue, because
this is like when Lou Lamoriello was the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the media couldn't get boo out of him. They couldn't get anything out of that management group. Now all of a sudden, his management team's leaking that they're offer sheeting Marner. No way.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
This Leafs team, you find out everything from the Leafs PR Twitter account.
Yeah.
That's where everything gets reported.
Yeah.
That's how we'll all find out that Mitch Marner signed a contract. They'll just tweet it out and they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way,
this happened. And it's going to be at like 4:00 in the morning, so nobody's going to see it.
I was thinking 9 p.m. on a Friday.
They would. It's right around the time that Rogers' internet goes out every week.
I mean, they only have a half stake in the team. It's fine.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that.
Okay, so you think Point is the first one. I think Tkachuk is going to be the first of that group to sign a deal.
But don't you think that would be to his detriment? Without knowing what like the top talent in his RFA pool is getting to benchmark himself against? I
think that you need to do it. I know that like general managers and agents and everything know what the actual numbers out there are.
Yeah.
But the more that like this rhetoric of these super high numbers are out there, he needs to strike while that's happening and try to capitalize on that before like a number of 9.5 comes in and he's like, well, I guess I'm taking 7 or whatever it ends up to be.
Yeah. You know, I wonder because if he signs first, that kind of hurts the high guys, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So I wonder, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure this out right now with Google, but I do wonder if he shares an agent with either Point or Marner, because that, you know, that could be a factor too, that if these guys are sharing agents, which a lot of them do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their agents are going to prioritize getting the Marners and Points of the world done before they work on getting the Tkachuks, because it's to the agent's benefit too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
he is represented by Newport, which that's a huge agency.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
Tons of folks. Taking a quick look through here, I do not see off the top of my head anyone of these restricted free agents that is, I mean, they've been busy this off season. No, none of the rest of these their players that they represent are restricted free agents.
They've still got a Kessel picture and a Penguins jersey.
Oh, I do enjoy all the pictures of like new picture coming. Got a lot of guys who switched teams this year.
It's true. Oh, it's funny. Why won't they just do the Photoshop thing? It's not that hard.
No,
this is a pretty basic website, though. In their defense,
I could make this website. You're welcome, Newport Sports. I mean, you got to enjoy. I don't know if your web version of the website's the same, but I've got a picture of Nick Lidstrom on my left-hand side. So
you do. Oh yeah, there it is, making the headlines in 2002.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
The Newport difference. Here's a picture of 16-year-old Steven Stamkos.
Ta-da! Anyway, so you think definitely Tkachuk being there, and there's a website that covers the agents very well. I forget what it is. There's I'm gonna sound like an idiot again. There's a P in it. Oh, there it is. This one actually does have a P in it. Puckpedia. And so if we head over there, we should be able to pull up who everyone's represented by. So nonetheless, all these restricted free agents do need to. How quickly, once one of those like top groups sign, how quickly after that do you think the rest do?
I think the only one I think is going to take a long time is Mitch Marner. I think once the first one goes, the rest are going to follow pretty quickly, like within weeks.
Okay. Looking at this list, because now that I have it pulled up, you can sort 2019 restricted free agents, and it lists who all their agents are. None of them are represented by the same collection of people, or the same person, I guess. Brandon Perlini is represented by the same player as Mitch Marner, or same agent.
I think Brandon Perlini is going to be fine.
I think so.
I don't think he's holding up anything. We
do have a couple folks that I do enjoy that are Yeah, there's a couple who have, like Claude Lemieux represents a. That's about it. Do you know Patrick Steffen went from failed first overall pick to agent?
I didn't know that. No,
Unless it's a different Patrick Steffen.
I doubt it.
That's a bold choice to pick him, though. I don't know. Maybe he spent his time after hockey.
I think it's interesting. All these players become agents after.
Yeah, Igor Larionov.
Yeah.
Agent.
Yep. Claude Lemieux.
Yeah, he's all over this list. Actually, he has a very busy off season.
Yeah, he's scooping up a lot of young talent the last few years.
Yeah,
and you know who else he's running that agency with is Peter Forsberg.
Great, yeah. So he's got all those Swedes. I mean, that's the Swedish dream, right? To be represented by Peter Forsberg.
Swedish dream, yeah.
Swedish dream.
The Swedish dream or Swedish dream?
Both. It's
yeah.
Should we go to some hockey history?
Yes, because it's time to play the game.
What game are we playing this week, Nick?
This week, we are playing a game of competition. We are playing a game of confrontation. We are playing a game of challenging the norm. Carl, today, we're talking about the World Hockey Association.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, World Hockey, yes, go on.
The World Hockey Association. Tell me more about this World Hockey Association.
The World Hockey Association was the first league since the mid-20s to actually be able to challenge the NHL in a professional capacity. The NHL just had a monopoly on hockey, much as it does now in North America. And the WHA came out in the 70s, and they were actually able to challenge them by putting themselves in markets where the NHL wasn't and putting themselves in markets where the NHL was to create direct competition. And they proceeded to steal a bunch of players from the NHL. So this all happened early in the 70s. It was founded in 1971. They started with 10 teams, and the buy-in for each team was $25,000. It's pretty low compared to today's, $500 million buy-in?
Yeah, and then that's for, an upstart organization, but one that, like you said, I can't even in any other sport to be able to create a legitimate competitor is very impressive.
It's very impressive. And they did so in a few different ways. So here's what was happening in the NHL at the time. In 1971, when the WHA was founded, there were 14 teams in the NHL. So the league had been through 2 rounds of expansion already. There was the original 6+6 expansion, and then they had added Buffalo and Vancouver the year before, I believe.
And if you want more on that, go listen to our hockey history episode about expansion.
Yes, we cover all of that.
We've got it covered. And we say we're going to skip the WHA part for a future episode. When
that's
you get
today.
to that, skip forward and just come back.
The future is now. The average player salary in the NHL at the time was $25,000. So players were still getting a very small slice of the NHL money pie.
So the average salary was $25,000.
Yes, and
which is the buy-in. So if we're looking at the buy-ins right now, $500 million, that would be comparable to NHL salaries being $500 million.
Right.
So that tells you how much franchise values have gone up.
Completely. And then on top of that, the NHL teams were allowed to put these clauses in their contracts that were called reserve clauses that just let the teams automatically extend the contract by a year when they ended. So players essentially had no way out.
Right. You want to go somewhere else. Now, did they have an out if they wanted to go to the WHA? Or is it like now where you need to have a transfer agreement with the UK and all this stuff?
It was essentially a defection. They walked away from the NHL to the WHA.
Okay.
There were 67 players who did it initially, but what the WHA did is they didn't have these reserve clauses in their contracts, and they were willing to give the players a bigger slice of the pie. So the big ticket name who jumped leagues was Bobby Hull, who went from Chicago to Winnipeg because he was probably making he was probably making a little more than $25,000 in Chicago, but he signed the first ever $1 million contract in hockey. It's the biggest contract ever signed.
With the Jets.
With the Winnipeg Jets. I think it was like 3 years and $2 million or something like that.
That's big.
It was $1 million salary plus $1 million signing bonus. So that was huge.
For sure.
And then once he did that, some other players eventually started coming over. Bernie Parent, Gary Cheevers, and then later on Gordie Howe and Paul Henderson came over. So the first WHA season started in October of 1972, but it was plagued with just problems. 2 teams folded before the season started. 2 teams relocated mid-season.
That's a rough go.
That's a rough go. The New York Raiders and the Toronto Toros were leasing Maple Leaf Gardens and Madison Square Garden from the NHL. So that wasn't an ideal situation. They were always having issues with the arena and their lease. And that was one of the teams that moved, was it not? That Toronto team, I think, started in Ottawa, and they were like, well, this isn't working. Let's go to Toronto. Yeah. And then they were just plagued with these arena issues because they were leasing from their direct competitor.
Yeah, that seems like a great way to not get a good run.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if we were borrowing podcast space from Spit and Chicklets. If that was who we were hosting, was on their server, and they're like, look, young bucks, we're gonna give you the slow bandwidth and limited storage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Carl would be editing these episodes for 2 days.
Yeah.
And the news would be out of date. Well, not this week, but
this news would be fresh. Somehow we got the only piece of news we talked about happened today. I mean, granted, there'll probably be like a trade right as soon as we stop recording.
Of course there will be. All the RFAs are going to sign tonight.
Can you imagine?
No. I don't even want to think about that.
Why would you speak that, Nick?
I'll be devastated.
Yeah.
So where are we? We're in October 1972. The WHA season starts. Teams are having issues, and these issues will plague the league for its entire existence. So they merged with the NHL in 1979. So we're talking about 7 seasons here. It's not much. Teams were constantly moving. Franchises were going bankrupt. The talent pool was weak between both leagues because they were splitting the talent. But the WHA did a few things differently that after the mergers, some things the NHL kept and some they didn't. But they allowed players under 20 to be signed. So this was a rule in the NHL at the time. You couldn't sign players under 20. But that's how they got in, and they scooped up guys like Wayne Gretzky. They scooped up guys like Mark Messier and Mark Howe. All these players who became huge talents in the league could be signed by WHA teams, but not NHL teams.
If you want more on Wayne Gretzky, listen to our Wayne Gretzky Trade Tree Hockey History episode. It all's a big web, what, Nick?
I love it.
So they're signing these players. Obviously, the NHL not too happy, right? I don't know if they knew just exactly how good Wayne Gretzky was going to be at the time, and obviously they ended up with him, so they weren't too upset. But you got to think, when Wayne Gretzky's 18 years old playing in the WHA and they see that generational talent there, they're wanting him over on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that was probably a big part of what pushed the teams to the leagues to merge, because in 78, they began merger talks and the league declined it. The owners voted against it.
Yeah.
So,
because their goal was to try to just run them into the ground.
Yeah.
They were like,
just bankrupt them, because teams are going bankrupt every year.
Yeah. When you look at the list, I have the list of teams in every season pulled up. There is not a single team that was there at the end. The Houston Aeros almost made it. They almost made it the entire length of the league. They did not. No, the Nordiques actually. The Nordiques existed for the entirety of the WHA.
Yep. And they almost didn't make it into the NHL.
And the Jets. They also were one. So there was 2 teams that lasted the entirety.
Yeah, and the NHL didn't want
And
the
the
Nordiques.
Whalers. I'm now at 3. I'm really bad.
Okay, Carl.
Stop talking.
Do you want to just read us all the teams that were on?
No, I just did. It's 3. Unless there's
But there were a bunch of teams in between. Like there was the San Francisco Sharks. There was
also the Los Angeles Sharks.
Yeah. Wait, did they move to Los Angeles after? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's teams like the Cincinnati Raiders. Stingers. There's another Raiders team. Oh, New York Raiders.
There was a team that was split between Ottawa and Denver.
Wow, they quite moved the split.
From Denver to Ottawa halfway through the season. Not a good choice.
Right? It's crazy.
Like, yeah, you've got, and like to not even go from the Denver Spurs to the Ottawa Civics halfway through the season. They're like, you know what? We're rebranding. Like that's how bad it was.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. But like, how gutsy do you have to be to start a hockey league and put teams in the same cities that have established hockey teams? Like, let's go head to head with the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
Or the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And give them the obviously very different name of New York Raiders.
It's true. I wonder what their logo looked like.
Yeah, it was just a big NYR, obviously. Just
with the Statue of Liberty behind it.
Yeah, exactly. But with like in black and red. And it was Antonio Brown wearing the helmet he's still wearing to this day. So we've got all these teams leaving, right? Or moving around. We've got players there. Through the entirety of this league, what changed from the NHL's perspective after these teams joined? Because now we've got all these teams coming in, right? We've got the Jets, we've got the Oilers, we've got Bobby Hull's back in the league. You've got this young Wayne Gretzky kid coming into the league. One interesting note that I enjoyed: the Finnish national team played one game in the WHA. That's a solid. They lost to the Oilers.
It's a cool fact.
Yeah, it is.
But they participated in a lot of international challenges, and I'm pretty sure they even played exhibition games against NHL teams.
Yeah, that seems like a thing that they should do.
Yeah. So when the merger happened in '79, there was an expansion draft, and all the players had to go back into the pool. But except for the players who defected initially, those players were allowed to be reclaimed by their original NHL teams.
Interesting. Okay.
Some of the teams took their players back. Some of them declined. I believe Bobby Hull was not reclaimed by the Blackhawks.
So how did that work? Because we've got now Wayne Gretzky, former Edmonton Oiler, stayed in Edmonton Oiler. If there's like a dispersal, do they get first pick?
The WHA teams, no, actually the NHL was pretty mean to them. And in terms of the draft, they put them at the bottom of the draft board, where normally expansion teams were put at the top. But the NHL didn't really want to acknowledge the WHA in any way. Like they called it an expansion, not a merger. They were considered expansion teams. And the NHL didn't honor any of the WHA records. And I believe to this day, they still don't. They don't recognize them.
Wow.
But what happened was for the expansion draft, I said all the players had to be released, except the teams were allowed to protect 2 goalies and 2 players.
Okay.
So Gretzky was part of one of the players the Oilers protected.
Right.
Which makes sense.
And literally, like, no one else on that list is anyone worth getting excited about.
No.
Who they protected.
No.
Okay.
No, not really. But like I mentioned, like the talent was pretty diluted between the 2 leagues. Like there was a lot of more amateur players playing in the WHA who wouldn't have made it professionally in the NHL.
So here's, right now we're talking about Octopus and restricted free agents in the middle of August. Can you imagine? I don't have the date, June 13th. So this was, pretty soon into the off season. We still would have been talking about some sort of sea life in August in our 1979 podcast. However, can you imagine how exciting that would be now to have players being reclaimed, players being protected, players being universal draft and then an expansion draft for those players coming back, you've got all this stuff happening in the NHL. That is a ton to be able to. I understand why, owners might not have agreed to it at first because there's so many moving parts.
Huge. It's a huge shakeup for the league because it's not just an expansion, no matter what they want to call it. Like and it's more than just the logistics of drafting and protecting. It's the politics between it all. Like there were two teams in the WHA who didn't come across in the merger, and they were paid out $1.5 million each.
Yeah, because there's only 4 teams that made it, right? Oilers, Whalers, Nordiques, Jets.
Correct.
The 4 teams that have been there since the beginning. Obviously.
Yeah, and then the 2 teams that were paid out were Cincinnati and Birmingham.
The old Birmingham Bulls.
Birmingham Bulls. Everyone's fave.
And so,
Houston really wanted in, and they didn't get it.
I mean, Houston still wants in.
Yeah.
They're just clamoring for the Flames to not get an arena.
Yeah, they are.
Sorry, Houston. So, okay. So these are the realms of how we got here. How did these teams, like with them now we've added 4 more teams to the NHL. We've brought back all these players, right? Do you know, like, this $1 million contract Bobby Hull had signed with the Jets? Was he now getting that money in the NHL side? Did contracts carry over? How did all that work? Do you know?
That's a really good question that I don't know the answer to, but I'm really curious to do more research on it because Gretzky had a 20-year contract signed with the Oilers the year before the merger, which obviously didn't carry over to the NHL.
He's very happy. He also would have pulled a Roberto Luongo at some point and said he regretted signing that contract.
Yeah, 100%. So I assume there's some sort of reset on the contract situations, but I can't say for sure. I'll have to follow up on that one for you.
Yeah, because there's, that's a ton of things to change right now. You have new bosses, even if you have the same bosses.
Yeah.
Right. And this is something they did have a players union in the NHL at this point.
Yes, they did.
And so now that they're going and joining the NHLPA, which has their own negotiated things with the NHL, which presumably I assume the WHA did not have.
I don't know. I think they had some sort of players association, but I don't think it was as effective or as big as the NHLPA was.
Yeah. Huh. This is so.
But yeah, that adds another layer of complexity to the whole merger.
Exactly. Right. Have these players who, and again, players' rights are owned by teams, but now, I'm sure there were some players who were like, I don't want to play in the NHL. Like, I was really happy playing in the WHA.
Yeah.
Really content with what was happening there.
Yeah.
But.
So I have 3 things here that I noted that the WHA did differently, that some of them the NHL carried over, some of them they didn't post-merger.
Okay.
So number 1, they allowed players under 20 to be signed. Now we know that carried over because when the merger happened, Wayne Gretzky was 18 years old and he still played in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Although he was not eligible for the Calder that year and Ray Bourque won.
Which is crazy that Wayne Gretzky never won Rookie of the Year.
It's crazy. It is crazy. The WHA paid their players more, which obviously kind of, broke down some of those walls in the NHL. Because if the NHL wanted to remain competitive and keep their talent and bring in new talent, they had to be able to pay them the way the WHA did.
Yeah, absolutely.
The WHA went after European players long before it was a regular thing to do in the NHL. And after they saw some of that talent coming in, I think NHL teams started to pick up their European player drafting. They had 10-minute sudden death overtime, which 2 to 3 seasons after the merger, the NHL adopted 5-minute sudden death overtime. And then it ended in a tie if there was no goal. But the WHA did it first.
As it should.
And lastly, the WHA had blue-colored pucks because they thought it would be easier for the fans to see on the ice. The NHL did not carry that over.
Shockingly. They had to wait 2 decades later for Fox Sports to add that back in.
Although, what could be hard. Like, what could be easier to see than black on white? Like a black puck on white ice. Why would blue be easier?
Yeah, I don't get the logic on that one.
Anyways.
Well, now that brings us to now. We're now, the Jets have moved. They've come back. The Nordiques moved. The Whalers moved. Like, literally, the Oilers are the only WHA team that are still there.
Yeah.
And I don't see them moving. Well, they literally can't move.
No, they won't at this point.
With their agreement. I mean, if the agreement the Oilers have with the province and city is anything like the Flames are not allowed to leave during the 35-year agreement of this new arena. So I assume the Oilers signed some other sort of deal.
They did. I'm pretty sure they did.
But knowing how cities and sports teams works, they can just say we're leaving and they'll just let them. So who cares?
They just do it. Yeah. But that actually leads me to a question I had for you. So the Jets franchise was moved in the late 90s. They were moved to Phoenix. They're now the Arizona Coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
The Atlanta Thrashers franchise was moved to Winnipeg, and they're now the Winnipeg Jets.
Correct.
So do you think that the current Winnipeg Jets should honor the franchise history of the Winnipeg Jets that came over with the WHA? Because technically that franchise is now the Arizona Coyotes.
Yes, I think that they should. I think the players that they loved and the fans do, right?
Yes, the fans do.
It becomes very difficult because you have the fact that the Coyotes own that history.
Right.
And I think like franchise records, like the most points ever as a Winnipeg Jet is a weird thing to look at now because that record moved to Arizona and you have, some of those guys like Shane Doan owns not all, but he owns some of those records of, all-time whatevers for his longevity with the team. But he didn't do that as a Winnipeg Jet. And so now when, Patrick Laine, when he signs his bridge and then signs another contract and is a lifelong Winnipeg Jet, and he beats Shane Doan?
Yeah, there's like a weird crossover history thing.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
I think that you like the players, but you stick this franchise is its own franchise.
Yeah.
But the history is the history.
Yeah. I don't think I have an issue with both teams honoring or celebrating that history.
No.
The current Winnipeg Jets can do it and the Arizona Coyotes can do it. I don't really care.
I just want them to both wear Jets throwbacks in the same game.
That would actually be amazing.
Jets on Jets.
Jets on Jets. Or the Coyotes wear the throwbacks and the current Winnipeg team wears the current Winnipeg jerseys.
Yeah. And they do that in Arizona.
In an outdoor game.
In Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah.
With fake snow.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is all very interesting. Thank you for sharing your WHA history passion with us.
I am very interested in it, mostly because it's not something I think we'll ever see again. The NHL is just too big now, and we're never going to see another league come in and challenge them like that.
And I don't think we'll see it in any sport. Really.
No,
like
not at this point.
The only way that we could is like I think of. I'm a big motorsports guy, right? So like racing and things like that. And we saw IndyCar split in the 90s into two different branches. And then it re-merged. Like that's something, but that's really the only way that I think we could see something like this even come remotely close to happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's all very interesting.
It is. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. If you are looking for more on that, you can head to your local history websites as well. Just do a Google search, and there's so many more stories and things that we could literally just spend all summer.
Yeah, we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, with all those teams and all the stories of how they moved and why the teams failed. There are some weird and crazy stories on how they failed.
Yeah. So yes, there are.
Make sure to check those out. If you are wanting to check out live sports. Nick loves live sports.
Love it.
You talked last week about how you recently went to a concert.
Yep.
Not a fan of arena shows. How do you feel about outdoor concerts?
I really like outdoor concerts, actually.
Okay. Well, great news for you, Nick. There's a country music festival coming up in Calgary this weekend, actually. Country Thunder is coming to Calgary. And if you wanted to go, you can head on over to Seat Giant. SeatGiant.ca. Use promo code APN and save 5% off your tickets.
Well, I'm doing that as soon as we log off.
You know what? Me and you, we're going to put our boots on. We're going to go.
Air Canada, if you're listening, I need plane tickets.
Book them. Yeah. Any event. What's great about them is they have sporting events in Canada, in the US. NFL is getting started up. If you're wanting to head to a preseason game, check that out. Save 5%. There's other ticket resale sites that you could go to, but only one will give you 5% off if you use promo code APN. Only one of them is giving you, especially for us in Canada, Seat Giant, coming in Canadian dollars. So you don't have to do that nasty conversion stuff you might have to with other sites. It's fantastic. Head on over there. They are always my first stop when I am looking to buy tickets for any sort of event. I check, what can I get at Seat Giant? And I am never disappointed. So head on over there, seatgiant.ca, promo code APN, representing the Alberta Podcast Network. Do that, and it'll be great. I also see there's tickets to Burning Man. If you're a fan of Burning Man Festival, you can save 5%. I don't assume there's a lot of Burning Man Fourth Line podcast crossover, though. If there is, tell us.
I have to say that one's not for me.
Yeah. It is an outdoor festival, Nick.
It is an outdoor festival. That is true.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Nick won't be there.
I won't be there.
No. But someone might be. So go check it out.
I hope so.
You can. Yeah. I mean, I assume it's not done yet.
Yeah.
You can head to thefourthlinepodcast.com for more. You can find where you can subscribe to us if you have not subscribed. You can find great writing pieces. Our writing team is putting together a giant project where we will be releasing a preview for every team every day in September, Nick. Big things coming over there. So that's...
I saw that. It looks great so far.
It's, shockingly trying to organize 31 articles in 31 days. It takes a little bit of planning.
Yeah, just a little bit. Trust me, I know.
So we're going to have that happening. And it's the second time. We took it off last year and we regretted it. We didn't do it in season came. We were like, we missed that. So it'll be back this year. And it's great. The team over there is fantastic. So head on over there and check out some of their work. We have an article by Chandler on brothers in the NHL. Did you know there are 267 pairs of brothers who've suited up in the NHL?
Over the course of history?
Yeah.
Neat. That's a lot.
Yeah. Some with the current Jets, some with the former Jets.
Very cool.
Probably. I can't think of a current Jet whose brother played in the NHL. But
where can I read more about that?
Thefourthlinepodcast.com.
Wow. That site has everything.
It's got everything. And it has this great podcast as well. So head on over there. You can find us on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. Oh, okay. We forgot to do this and we've gone shockingly long.
We've been talking for over an hour.
Yeah. We need to hand out some hockey cards.
Oh, yeah.
So for those of you who've stayed this long, I don't have the list of it completely slipped my mind. I know who wins best in show.
Okay.
I don't have the list of everyone who did because there was one person that found the perfect mashup of our episode last week.
In hockey card form?
In hockey card form.
Oh boy, I need to see this.
There is, and I'll repost it when we post the winner. This is, I'm going to say it and you're not going to care what else anyone else sent us.
Okay.
It is Brett Hull holding, not on the ice. He's still in hockey gear. Brett Hull, not on the ice, holding a flaming hockey stick.
Oh my God. So hold on. He's off the ice, but in full hockey gear.
Yeah.
And he has a hockey stick on fire.
Yes.
In his hands.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Is he trying to juggle it?
They don't show what happens next.
I need to see this hockey card.
I have now sent you the tweet link. So, shout out that one comes to us from Andrew. at AJF Legs. I assume that's how you pronounce that Twitter handle. Shout out. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for sending that in. Thanks for listening. And thank you for having the greatest hockey card we have ever seen in our lives.
Oh my God, the look on Brett Hull's face is amazing.
He is on the kind of bender that would have him put an octopus on his face.
And it says Man of the Year. As if Brett Hull was ever Man of the Year.
Brett Hull, Man of the Year, according to Score 91.
Oh my God.
Well, shout out to Andrew for finding that gem, sending it in. You, sir, you get first. We're going to send you the shockingly large set of hockey cards. So let us know where we can send that off to. I'm going to see here. What else did we have? I'm going to pick. All right. I'll tweet out the winner of the other pack because I'm gonna organize that out. So we've got that. I'm gonna send out to Dave the stick. I'm gonna send Andrew the pack of shockingly large hockey cards, and I'm gonna figure out who the other winner of this pack is and tweet it. So tune into the Twitters at Fourth Line Podcast. Thank you for joining us in the middle of August. It's been a lot of fun.
And now it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Don't be mean to your octopi because its beak will try to eat your eye.